Ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about something we've all faced: being belittled. Someone cuts you off, mocks your ideas, or talks to you like you're less than you are. It stings, doesn't it? It's easy to get angry, to clap back, to defend yourself on the spot. But here's the truth: when you respond from emotion, you give them exactly what they wanted: your peace. Before we start, if you're someone who's working on building your confidence, learning how to stay calm under pressure, and becoming mentally stronger every day, make sure you like this video, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Because today's topic might just change the way you handle disrespect forever. I've got a pro tips for you that can completely change the way you handle people who try to belittle you. Let's start. The most confident people don't rush to prove their worth. They know who they are even when someone else forgets. When someone belittles you, they're not exposing your weakness. They're revealing their own insecurity. Their goal is to drag you down to their level, to make you doubt yourself, to steal a piece of your calm. Don't give it to them. Sometimes the strongest response is no response at all. Silence can shake someone more than any comeback ever could. Because silence tells them, I'm not threatened by you. You're not ignoring out of fear. You're choosing peace over pointless argument. That's real power. When you hold your composure, you hold control. The moment you let anger take over, you hand them your power. You can't always control what people say to you, but you can always control what stays with you. Your reaction defines your reputation, so choose to respond in a way that represents strength, not insecurity. Confidence doesn't shout, it doesn't argue, it doesn't rush to be seen, it just is. It's the calm in the chaos, the pause in the noise, the clarity in the conflict. And when someone tries to belittle you, your calmness becomes the mirror that shows them who they really are. You don't need to win anyone's approval to feel valuable. Approval that comes from others can disappear the moment they change their mind. But confidence that comes from within, no one can take that from you. So don't argue with someone who's committed to misunderstanding you. Let them talk. Let them assume you stay grounded. Because peace of mind will always be louder than their ego. Remember this: you don't owe anyone a reaction. You owe yourself self-respect. You can respond with grace and still stand firm. You can walk away and still win. Because real confidence is not about proving you're right, it's about protecting your peace. Silence speaks louder than defense. When someone belittles you, your first instinct might be to defend yourself, to explain, to prove your worth, or to fight back with words that show you're not the person they think you are. But here's the thing: defense often gives power to the one trying to provoke you. The moment you start explaining yourself to someone who's already decided to misunderstand you, you've already stepped into their trap. They wanted your reaction. They wanted to see you lose balance. And silence, as simple as it seems, denies them that satisfaction. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean you're afraid or unsure of what to say. Silence means you're secure enough to know that not every comment deserves a response. You understand that your energy is valuable, and not every situation is worth spending it on. When you stay quiet, you let your composure speak for you, and that calmness communicates far more strength than any argument ever could. The truth is, people who belittle others are rarely interested in the truth. They're not trying to understand you. They're trying to provoke you. They use words as weapons, hoping you'll fight back so they can feel powerful. When you respond with silence, you take that weapon right out of their hands. You show them that their words can't reach you, that you've built emotional armor too strong to be pierced by cheap remarks. Silence becomes a mirror, reflecting their insecurity back at them. There's a kind of peace that only comes when you stop feeling the need to explain yourself to everyone. You realize that your worth isn't up for debate, and your character doesn't need constant defense. You know who you are, you know what you stand for, and that quiet confidence unsettles people who rely on chaos to feel in control. The louder they get, the calmer you become, and in that contrast, your silence becomes the loudest thing in the room. It takes emotional maturity to choose silence, because silence isn't about avoidance, it's about discipline. It's saying, I could respond, I could argue, I could tear you apart with words, but I won't. You don't deserve that access to my peace. It's understanding that sometimes the best way to protect your energy is to say nothing at all. Let people believe what they want. Time always exposes truth more clearly than words ever will. When you stay silent, something powerful happens. You shift control. The person trying to provoke you expects a reaction. They're ready for the fight. They've already planned their next move based on your response. But when you don't react, they lose control of the narrative. They start to look foolish, arguing with someone who's not even engaging. That silence becomes uncomfortable for them because it reminds them they can't control you. Silence also gives you perspective. When you pause before reacting, you allow emotions to settle, and in that stillness, clarity appears. You begin to see the situation for what it really is, reflection of them, not of you. Their words say more about their pain, their insecurity, their need to feel superior. Once you realize that, you stop taking things personally. You stop defending yourself against things that were never really about you in the first place. People often think silence is a sign of surrender, but in truth, it's one of the strongest responses you can give. Because silence doesn't mean nothing is happening. It means you're choosing your response carefully. You're letting your peace be the message. You're saying, I'm not going to lower myself to your level because I know my value doesn't depend on your validation. That kind of restraint is power. It's maturity. It's leadership. The most powerful people in any room are the ones who don't react to every insult or challenge thrown their way. They listen, they observe, they decide whether the situation deserves their energy. And most of the time, they realize it doesn't. They've learned that you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. Silence becomes their strategy, not because they can't speak, but because they've mastered the art of choosing when to. So the next time someone tries to belittle you, remember that you don't have to defend your worth. You don't have to match their tone or prove your value. Just stay still, stay quiet. Let silence do what words can't. It will protect your peace, preserve your dignity, and remind everyone watching that real confidence doesn't need to speak. It simply stands. Your reaction defines your reputation. It's not what happens to you that people remember most. It's how you handle it. The world will always test your composure, your patience, and your emotional strength. People will push your buttons just to see how easily you can lose control. But your reaction in those moments of pressure becomes your signature. It tells others who you are, how you lead, and how much command you have over yourself. When someone disrespects you, you have two choices. You can let your emotions take the wheel, or you can let your principles lead. The first choice feels natural. It feels right in the heat of the moment. You want to correct them, confront them, or remind them of who you are. But that reaction, as satisfying as it might feel for a second, often does more damage than good. Because emotions are temporary, but the impression you leave behind lasts long after the situation ends. When you react from impulse, you give away control. When you respond with calm, you keep it. Your reaction is your public reflection of inner discipline. It's the difference between being respected and being pitied. The loudest person in the room rarely has the most power. The calmest one does, because calmness tells people you don't need to prove your worth. You know it already. You understand that respect isn't earned by matching someone's disrespect, but by refusing to stoop to it. The moment you start defending your ego instead of your integrity, you begin to lose the quiet strength that sets you apart. Think about it. When someone tries to humiliate you or belittle your achievements, they're not really attacking your worth, they're testing your emotional control. They want to see if you'll react, if they can pull you into their chaos. But the people who lead with self-respect understand that reacting emotionally to every offense is like giving strangers free access to your peace. Every time you let someone's words control your response, you hand them a piece of your power. But when you choose calmness, when you choose restraint, you're silently saying, you can't touch me that easily. That message builds a reputation stronger than any verbal defense ever could. People pay attention when you stay composed under pressure. They remember the way you didn't break, the way you didn't let anger guide you. It earns you quiet respect. It separates you from those who lose control and call it strength. True confidence doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to prove, perform, or fight back. It simply exists in the way you hold yourself, even when everything around you tries to pull you off balance. There's power in pause. That small moment between what happens and how you respond determines whether you'll regret your words or stand by them later. The pause gives you time to choose wisdom over impulse. It lets your emotions settle and your clarity rise. Because when you react too quickly, emotion becomes your voice. But when you take a breath, reason steps in and speaks for you. That's how you protect your reputation from yourself. Your reaction isn't just for you. It's for everyone watching. Whether it's your team, your friends, your family, or your followers, people learn from the way you handle disrespect and stress. They're watching to see if your calmness is real or just a mask. And when they see that your peace can't be shaken by pettiness, your credibility multiplies. You become the kind of person others trust to handle pressure, the one who leads through steadiness, not noise. You don't have to react to every situation to prove your strength. Sometimes the best reaction is silence, sometimes it's a smile, sometimes it's simply walking away. Every time you choose peace over pride, you're defining who you are. Because character isn't shown when things are easy, it's revealed when things get difficult. Your reaction in those hard moments becomes your story, and your story becomes your reputation. It's easy to say, I don't care what people think, but the truth is, your reaction still writes your image. It shapes how people perceive your maturity, your professionalism, and your emotional intelligence. You don't need to please everyone, but you do need to protect the legacy you're building. And that legacy starts with how you carry yourself when people test your patience. The one who reacts less wins more, not because they're weak, but because they understand that control is power. So the next time someone tries to push you, insult you, or make you question your worth, remember this: your reaction is your reputation. It's the story people will tell about you when you're not in the room. Let it be one of strength, not anger. Let it reflect peace, not chaos. Because the way you respond when someone tries to pull you down says everything about how high you've already risen. Confidence is quiet, insecurity is loud. Real confidence doesn't need to announce itself, prove itself, or argue for recognition. It just exists. It's the calm in the storm, the steady presence in a room full of noise. Confident people don't need to convince others of their worth because they already know it. Their actions, their tone, their patience, all of it speaks for them louder than any boastful words ever could. Insecurity, on the other hand, is restless. It needs to be seen, heard, validated. It shouts, interrupts, and competes, not because it's strong, but because it's afraid of being unseen. When you're truly confident, silence doesn't scare you. You don't feel the need to fill every gap with words or prove your point over and over again. You understand that truth doesn't need to be defended. It reveals itself over time. Confidence allows you to pause, to observe, to listen. It allows you to pick your battles wisely because you know your energy isn't endless. Loudness comes from a need to dominate. Calmness comes from knowing you don't have to. That's what separates the secure from the insecure. The secure don't need control to feel powerful. They find power in self-control. Confident people don't crumble under criticism. They don't take every opinion as an attack. They know who they are, what they bring, and where they're headed. They understand that not every voice deserves attention, and not every comment deserves a response. When you have genuine confidence, you don't waste time trying to convince people who've already decided not to understand you. You move with purpose, not with panic. The insecure, however, can't stand silence because silence forces them to face themselves. They talk over others, interrupt, and brag, trying to drown out their own self-doubt. The noise isn't power, it's fear disguised as volume. Confidence doesn't mean arrogance. It's not about walking into a room thinking you're better than everyone. It's walking in without the need to compare yourself to anyone. You don't need to outshine others to feel worthy. You just need to be present in your own light. Insecure people seek attention. Confident people attract it effortlessly. Because real confidence isn't about being the loudest, it's about being the most centered. You speak when it adds value, you stay quiet when it doesn't, and both choices come from strength. It's easy to mistake noise for strength in a world that rewards attention. Social media, arguments, constant opinions, it all celebrates being loud. But the truth is, people who talk the most aren't always the ones who know the most. The ones who listen, think, and observe usually understand more. Confidence gives you patience. It gives you the ability to sit in silence without discomfort. It teaches you that not reacting doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. Because the one who stays calm while everyone else loses control holds the real power. Quiet confidence also builds trust. People are drawn to those who don't constantly seek validation. They sense the steadiness, the reliability. You don't have to prove your capability through words, you prove it through consistency. You show it through the way you handle pressure, how you treat others when no one's watching, and how you keep your composure when others try to shake you. Insecure people often need the spotlight to feel alive, but confident people understand that their value isn't dependent on attention. Their content in the shadows because they know their work, their presence, and their integrity will eventually bring them to the light, without noise, without chaos, without performance. When you meet someone truly confident, you'll notice something powerful. They listen more than they talk. They don't interrupt. They don't rush to prove a point. They don't react to every provocation. Because they've mastered themselves first. Confidence isn't built through words, it's built through control, discipline, and peace. And that kind of energy can't be faked. You can feel it in the way they move, in the tone of their voice, in the silence that follows them. They don't need attention. Attention finds them naturally. Insecurity, though, is desperate. It needs constant reassurance. It hides behind sarcasm, anger, and competition. It's the voice that says, "Look at me," while secretly whispering, "I'm not enough." The louder someone becomes about their power, the more you should question if they're trying to convince themselves. Real strength doesn't beg to be seen. It's felt. The difference between confidence and insecurity is peace. Confidence lives in peace, insecurity lives in noise. One builds relationships through respect, the other burns them with ego. One listens to understand, the other listens to respond. One walks away knowing their worth, the other stays arguing to prove it. That's why the quiet ones often win. They aren't distracted by noise. They're focused on growth, purpose, and peace. Confidence is quiet because it's built on truth. It's the quiet knowing that you're enough, that you're capable, and that your value doesn't decrease just because someone else doesn't see it. The loudness of insecurity fades quickly, but the calm presence of confidence leaves a lasting mark. You don't have to shout to be heard. You don't have to argue to be respected. You just have to show up, stay grounded, and let your silence do the talking. You don't need to win their approval, just keep your peace. The moment you start chasing approval, you hand over the keys to your peace. You begin living in response to other people's opinions, trying to fit into their expectations, trying to adjust your tone, your choices, even your identity just to be accepted. And the truth is, no matter how much you do, someone will always have something to say. Approval is a moving target. It shifts with mood, with perspective, with bias. But peace, real peace, is something you build within yourself. It doesn't depend on who claps for you or who criticizes you. It's a decision to value your stability more than someone else's validation. Peace doesn't mean you stop caring about people. It means you stop allowing them to control your emotions. It's understanding that your worth doesn't come from what others think, but from who you've worked to become. You can't live freely if every decision you make is filtered through the fear of disapproval. The people who seem the most confident are not the ones who are liked by everyone. They're the ones who've learned to stand steady even when they're misunderstood. Because peace is not found in being liked, it's found in being aligned with your values, your truth, and your boundaries. The search for approval is endless because it's rooted in insecurity. It tells you that you need someone else's permission to feel enough. And that's a dangerous way to live, because the moment someone withdraws that approval, your confidence crumbles. Keeping your peace means breaking that dependency. It means saying, "I respect your opinion, but it doesn't define me." You start listening less to noise and more to your own inner voice. That's where clarity begins. That's where self-trust grows. Because when your peace becomes the priority, your decisions stop being emotional reactions and start being intentional choices. There's freedom in not explaining yourself to everyone. You don't have to justify your growth, your boundaries, or your silence. The people meant for you will understand you without needing a presentation. The ones who don't won't, and that's okay. You don't need their approval to evolve. You just need courage to stay consistent with your truth. People may call it pride or distance, but what it really is peace earned through self-respect. Keeping your peace doesn't mean you avoid confrontation. It means you approach it with composure. You know when to speak and when to walk away. You understand that arguing for acceptance is exhausting and fruitless. Some people are committed to misunderstanding you, no matter how clearly you explain yourself. The more you chase their understanding, the more drained you become. But when you stay calm, when you choose silence instead of proving your point, you take back your power. Your peace becomes your boundary, a quiet message that says, "My energy isn't up for debate." It takes strength to remain peaceful when you're being judged. It takes emotional maturity to say, "I don't need to be right in your eyes to be right with myself." That's the kind of confidence that's unshakable. It's not the loud, defensive kind that needs to be heard. It's the grounded kind that stands still in chaos. You stop reacting to every opinion because you know not every opinion carries truth. You learn to measure feedback by wisdom, not by volume. The ones who shout the loudest often understand the least. When you keep your peace, you create space for clarity. You start seeing who truly respects you and who only tolerated you when you played small. Peace has a way of filtering people. It attracts those who value calm and repels those who feed on chaos. The moment you stop fighting for approval, you start attracting authenticity. You'll notice your circle shrinking, but your quality of connection deepening. That's the quiet reward of peace: fewer people, stronger bonds, and more genuine energy. Peace also strengthens your presence. People may not always agree with you, but they'll feel your steadiness. You become someone who doesn't bend under pressure. Who doesn't lose control when criticized? That kind of energy demands respect without asking for it. Approval seeks attention, peace commands it. Approval changes with opinion, peace remains unbothered, unshaken. The truth is, approval feels good but fades fast, peace feels calm and lasts. Approval is external applause, peace is internal strength. Approval can be taken away, peace can't. Because it's not given by others, it's built by you. Every time you choose not to argue, not to explain, not to prove, you're reinforcing that peace. You're training your mind to value calmness over chaos, stability over validation, wisdom over ego. So when someone doesn't see your worth, doesn't support your path, or questions your choices, but don't waste your breath trying to win them over. Let your results speak. Let your peace speak. Because people eventually recognize what doesn't break, what doesn't waver, what doesn't beg to be understood. You don't need to win their approval. Just keep your peace. And over time, that peace will make more noise than any argument ever could. Now, here's the pro tip. The one thing that separates people who protect their peace from those who lose it: every time someone speaks against them, learn to pause before you absorb. When someone throws negativity your way, don't immediately accept it as truth. Pause. Ask yourself, is this feedback meant to help me grow or to pull me down? If it's not useful, don't take it personally. Let it pass through. Most of the time, people speak from their own reflection, not your reality. And when you learn to filter instead of absorb, your self-worth stops depending on what's said around you and starts depending on what's built within you. You can't stop people from talking, but you can stop giving their words power. You can't control their opinions, but you can control your response. And when you start valuing peace over validation, your silence becomes strength, your restraint becomes your reputation, and your detachment becomes your armor. People will notice your calm, your stillness, your quiet confidence, and they'll wonder what changed. The truth is, nothing outside changed. You just finally realize that your worth isn't in their words, it's in your own. So, keep your peace, hold your ground, and remember this: their opinion is not your identity. You don't have to fight to be seen, you just have to stand firm in who you are. Detach your worth from their words, and you'll never again lose yourself trying to be understood by people who were never meant to define you. Because the moment you stop chasing approval, you start living in freedom, and that's where real confidence begins.